Hi HLST152 students, this is Yvonne and this is the first screencast on the topic of stress. Here are the learning outcomes that we're going to be covering. We're going to start by defining stress and getting through all 6 of these learning outcomes by the time we finish the recordings. We're going to start by having you think about how stress affects you. All right, so think about whether stress is an element of your daily life. Is it? It should be. It is for everyone. All right, we all experience a stress, whether that is good or bad stress. What do you experience when you are stressed? Like, how do you feel? Or if someone you know well knows you're having a stressful day, how would they know? What kind of behaviors do you dispel? All right, so do you have a headache, a backache? Do you get irritable? Do you experience insomnia? Do you experience tightness in your shoulders or your neck? Where do you carry your stress? Do you experience loss of appetite or indigestion or excessive eating? So how you respond to stress are all unique byproducts of your past experiences. Your family, your friends, your environmental conditions, your general health status, personality, support systems influence how you respond to a given event. So why do you respond to stress the way that you do? Just for some of those reasons. So a person's learned styles of coping with stress play a major role in whether genetics even are fully expressed when we experience stress. So the way we handle stress may be dictated by neurotransmitters. A person may be born with a genetic propensity to either be more stress resilient or more stress vulnerable. So is stress always a bad thing? Here's a definition of stress. Stress is a biological and biochemical process. It begins in the brain and it spreads through the nervous system, causing hormone release and eventually exerting an effect on the immune system. It's actually difficult to define stress. Everyone has experienced it. No one is free of stress. It can be sad or a happy event that are related to stress. Stress challenges our homeostasis, our body's internal sense of balance. Stress doesn't do the same thing to all people. It nearly occurs constantly. So stress occurs all the time, almost always, constantly. Stress just is. It's hard to live with, and it's almost impossible to live without. Without stress, you're dead. All right? Here's an interesting little tidbit here. Stressed, spelled backwards, is desserts. So I thought I'd throw that in. Okay, what are stressors? So a stressor is a physical, social, mental event, a condition that forces our minds and our bodies to react or adjust. So these events activate the stress response system. These are stimuli. They can be either internal. So there are some examples of internal stressors like hunger, infection, or fever, or they can be external. Stress sometimes, and the things that you experience when you're on a roller coaster, is a good way to think about stress and how it doesn't do the same things to all people. So Paul Roche, who was the president of the American Institute of Stress, likens stress to a ride on a roller coaster. There are those in the front of the car. Their hands are over their head, they're clapping, they can't wait to get on again. And then there's those at the back cringing, wondering how they got into this and how soon it's going to be over. One passenger has his back stiffened, knuckles are white, eyes are shut, jaw clenched, just waiting for this ride to be over. And then there's the wide-eyed thrill seeker that relishes every plunge. They can't wait to do it again. So the roller coaster provides the same stressor, but the passengers have 2 very different experiences or responses. So this illustrates that stress is not out there all right, being done to us, as much as it's in there. It's determined by the way we've learned to think about the stressor. So again, individual responses to stressors can be affected by previous vulnerabilities and experiences, coexisting health problems, even gender, coping resources. So stressors, getting back to these stressors, they can vary with life's stage. They're not necessarily negative events according to age. So adolescents, adults, and the elderly have different types of stressors. For example, with the adolescent and the pre-adolescent, they're achieving certain developmental tasks that are important during this time of their life. So they're searching to for identity. They're spending time with their peers. They separate from their families. So these are actually considered stressors, these developmental things that all adolescents go through. So adults, again, their stress could arise from major changes in their individual health, for example, and their life circumstances, like, again, as they achieve certain milestones, like beginning a family or losing a parent. And again, as we age, stress may be related more to loss of autonomy, other health problems that arise that may cause mobility issues, loss then of a spouse or other social support systems. So again, age is one factor here. Also gender, perception of control, personal control, availability of support systems, feelings of competence. This other point, cognitive appraisal, we're going to be talking about in class. So aspects of a stressor influence the stress response. Okay, so we're looking at the stressor and, its intensity, its scope, its duration, the number and nature of other stressors, the past exposure to serious stressors, the predictability. All of these are aspects of a stressor that influences the stress response. So let's look at some other terminology. So stress in itself is not positive or negative. It's our reaction to it that can be positive or negative. So we're going to look at these two terms, eustress and distress. So both of these can actually provide an opportunity for personal growth that can lead to personal satisfaction. So eustress is considered the positive or the good stress. It's exhilarating, motivating energy, happiness, hopefulness. You're under control, but excited. This is the stress that protects health. It usually results, again, from positive situations, and it provides a stimulus for growth and higher levels of achievement. Now, on the other side is the bad stress, or the distress. Here there's loss of productivity. You feel out of control. You feel like a victim. It's the damaging stress that causes health problems. This distress has shown to affect almost all body systems. It can result in cardiovascular disease, neuromuscular disorders, including migraine headaches and chronic back pain. It also can cause health problems related to the respiratory system, allergic disorders, immunologic disorders, gastrointestinal disturbances like irritable bowel syndrome, skin diseases, and just a host of other problems. So again, the distress usually has results in a negative situation. It increases the likelihood of, dysfunctional or abnormal behaviors or illnesses. It can lead to social problems, including dysfunctional relationships. So let's look at 3 types of stress, all right, in a different way here. So we have some types of stress, physical, psychological, and psychosocial on the left, and some definitions or descriptions on the right. So take a look at these and see if you can match these up, which is the physical, description, which is the psychological, and which is the psychosocial. Okay, so let's take a look at these answers. Okay, so here we go. The physical stress, these are stressors in the environment, pollution, constant noise. All right, it can involve things like inadequate supply of oxygen. Then your psychological stems from the way we react toward anything that is threatening to us, whether the threat is real or imagined. And psychosocial are stressors from interpersonal relationships and conflicts with people around us. It can occur in isolation as a result of inadequate social interaction. Okay, we're going to look at one other thing in this screencast, and that's how distress can be categorized. So we can look at distress, work stress and family stress, acute stress. This is provoked by time-limited events and are threatening for a relatively short period of time. For example, losing control of your vehicle on an icy road. That would be an example of an acute stress. Then chronic stress arises in stable conditions and from stressful roles. An example could be living with a chronic illness. So it lasts for several hours, for an extended period of time, usually months or years. All right, so it's considered chronic stress. For example, even raising a child with a disability. Then we have trauma, so that's any physical damage to the body, or in mental health terms, witnessing or experiencing a painful, distressing, or shocking event. Here, perception plays a large role. Then we have a crisis, so the person faces a turning point in life and must change. There are really two types of crisis. There's, again, a developmental that's associated with developmental levels, as we mentioned, mastering tasks in adolescence, like independence, or it could be a situational crisis, like a natural disaster. And then there's these daily hassles. These are recurrent things that happen. They seem like they're minor, okay, but if there's a lot of them, they can accumulate. So there can be a cumulative effect of minor hassles that can be harmful in the long run. So an example of a daily hassle could be like losing your keys or commuting to work. So they're petty annoyances or irritations and frustrations. And so here's a little quote about hassles. It's not the large things that send a man to the madhouse. No, it's the continuing series of small tragedies that send a man to the madhouse. Not the death of his love, but a shoelace that snaps with no time left. So it's not major events when you think about hassles. They're minor things that accumulate and cause problems. Okay, so we're going to end this screencast. Key to good health is learning how to turn the bad stress into good stress. And then we'll be returning with another screencast.